Hey, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good people at the Roto Street Journal, paving your way to fantasy glory, acting as your lead blocker to fantasy excellence. We are into episode 6 out of 8 as we hit every division in the NFL. We did the AFC West yesterday. We did the AFC East, or we're doing the AFC East right now today. Man, what a load of garbage, huh? Anyway, my name's Nat the Truth Jones. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself. I saw you wanted to answer that garbage comment.
I did, because it's absolutely sheer, steaming, heaping piles of complete shit here. It is awful. I mean, there is the first division. We're going to do the first team in this division, the Bills. There's obviously a couple huge names. After that, Gaskin's like teetering on my top 100. Everybody else is outside the top 100. That doesn't mean this isn't like an unimportant episode, though, because I do think there's plenty of sleepers within this division. A couple big risers. I guess Corey Davis is actually now my top 100, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, as a whole, this is the NFC least last year. This is the new least. It is a horrendous, disgusting division. The other note of that too, Nat, is I've been updating the projections, and I got a little bit behind on this division just because of how crap it is. And we're going to be kind of updating it live as we go here. So this will be a new one to all you guys, Mitch, all the people tuning in every day, Alan Capps catching the replay, all you guys. This is going to be a little bit of a different where I update them live as we go. So a little bit less organized than our typical schedule, but maybe even more valuable because we'll talk through our thought press about where it used to be and where we now have it once we've updated it live.
Yeah, there were some wild discrepancies when I was doing my research, a couple hours ago, and the Wolf has actually been changing some of these things in real time. So hopefully I won't just read off completely incorrect stats. If I do, hopefully the Wolf will correct them, with authority on the air.
Exactly. And as you know, like you were saying, my big board's adjusted. So when you're going to say like Josh Allen's QB2 on your big board, he would have been anyways when I update the projections. Right. But nonetheless, that's going to be right. It's more so when you're saying like Elijah Moore you have as the top dog as of now. I'll be flipping that today as we go into our projections. There's going to be quite a few of those after preseason week 2. No division was hit quite as hard as this AFC East.
Yeah, I mean, in the East here, up in at least the Northeast, how was that hurricane? Did you guys get hit by that hurricane? Because we had like a light rain with no wind for about 20 minutes.
It was pathetic. We got nothing. I know I was talking about a tornado warning and stuff up here. Nothing happened last week, and then there's a big hurricane warning, like you said, over the weekend. Nothing. I dished out of the bachelor party I was at. It was an amazing time, but I had to get up at 5:30 in the morning to beat the storm and get out of there.
Oh yeah, got to beat the storm.
I mean, I did beat the storm, and then the storm never came. So yeah. No hurricane at all.
All right. With that said, we're going to get right into the AFC East. Hold on to your seats, everybody. This should be a lot of fun. I'm serious, by the way. I'm not being sarcastic. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be all over.
There's a bunch of really, really bad teams. I didn't realize actually how bad this was until I went through it. In my mind, still the NFC East was the worst. I don't think so. I mean, this clearly seems like the worst division in football, minus the team we're starting out with, and that, of course, is the Buffalo Bills.
And before I get you going, Nat.
Oh, yeah. Hey.
You know what we got to do. We got to be our little sluts and ask for your thumbs up. It helps us get out to more people, whether you're here live with us or catching the replay. It would mean the world if you consider giving us a thumbs up, hitting that sub button afterwards if you like what you hear and you enjoy it. And, of course, we'll answer every single question. Yesterday, we got like a 50, 60 question mailbag at 1:30 on a Monday. We were laughing after the broadcast, Nat. Like, that was awesome. So bring the heat, guys. All the questions you have, you know how we do it. We'll hit them after our feature segment, which will take about 40 or so minutes to get us there.
All right, here we go. Bills. Obviously, the captain of that ship is Josh Allen. You've got him 408 completions out of 598 for a little under 4,800 yards in the air, 37 touchdowns, 12 picks to go along with 107 rushes, almost 450 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That is a nasty stat line. We're talking about 46 total touchdowns for the guy. That's good enough for quarterback 2 on both of your lists. I'm assuming not much of that has changed.
No, and no matter what happens, save like a tragic injury to Stefan Diggs, those stats are going to hold true. I love this guy. He's such an exciting prospect. The fact about him, too, is he might not have hit his ceiling already. Greg Cosell, one of my favorite film gurus, said nobody drips in as much natural talent in the arm and obviously brings the legs as well as Josh Allen. It's a matter of does he truly refine all his mechanics? we saw last year. Gets that continuity of Brian Dable at the top, still calling the plays, which is amazing. Same exact weapons cabinet outside of Emmanuel Sanders coming in for John Brown, which by all accounts so far has been a positive, not a negative. I love this team. I love Josh Allen. He is going to sling it and be by far, I mean, he's the only guy I think has the real legitimate case to beat Pat Mahomes this year. Right.
And he's going for at least in my auction draft, he went for about half what Mahomes went for.
Exactly. A full round later in drafts. And those two should be, that's why I've said on air multiple times, I think Mahomes might be one of the worst picks you can make in this draft.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Obviously not because he's going to suck. We know he's my quarterback one. He's going to be good. But the opportunity cost of a round 3 Mahomes versus the talent that's sitting there late 4th, early 5th when you're going Josh Allen is tremendous. I still don't often go quarterback early, so I probably won't have Josh Allen on too many teams. But in my best ball drafts, when he falls to mid-5, sometimes even early 6, I've scooped him up there because the talent really does drop off once the top 18 running backs are gone. That's when I'll start considering Josh Allen for sure.
Yeah, Mahomes, as great as he is, and neither one of us disputes that he is just greater than great can be, he's overrated fantasy-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the opportunity cost of the position. It truly is.
All right, let's get into running backs, and I'm just going to warn you guys right now, there have been some real changes. So the big change is that you had about a 60-40 split out of the backfield in favor of Zack Moss going into this. And I'm not going to bother reading the stats. You can read them if you want because I know they've been changed. But essentially, you've had a bit of a change on that, and you think that now it's a 60-40 in favor of Singletary, basically.
Most likely, yeah. So let's go through this. I'm going to go to the depth chart adjustments. And then again, this tool is available on RotoViz, one of my favorites. And I'm just going to switch Zack Moss for Singletary. Now, this is based off, while I'm doing this, the preseason. Last preseason, week 2, Zack Moss came in after Singletary. In fact, Singletary saw 18 of the 20 first-team snaps before Zack Moss even touched the field. He's been in there for about 66% of the first-team snaps so far this preseason, and he's also looking pretty damn good while doing it. 72 yards on 12 touches, 2 receptions so far, 2 touchdowns. Singletary is looking good. Now, we know Josh Allen's the de facto goal line back. There's not going to be that many TD upside. It's not a backfield I'm all that excited to get into. So right now, though, as you can see, I have Josh Allen for about 24% of the ground pie, that being about 445 rush attempts. Yeah. Now I'm going to flip this a little bit. I do think it's going to be a little bit closer than 41-28. I think it's going to get closer to more like 39 for Singletary, and then the rest will go to Zack Moss here. Let's project him now. So we're missing a couple percents here. So 30, 38, 31. And that's why it's not like that ultimately valuable of a pie. If your running back's only getting 39, the top guy, 39% of it, it can't be that valuable. I do think Moss brings a little more TD upside than Singletary. So I might switch this to like 4% Moss and get him to about, 6 seems a little rich. I might do 3-5 then and give him like 5 touchdowns. I think Singletary, 7 is about, his preseason pace. He's on pace for 16 touchdowns of the year. So 7, I'd give him another 3-5 as well, get him down to 6 touchdowns. So it is, again, the third highest scoring offense of last year. These guys go in round 10 or so. Singletary going multiple rounds after Zack Moss right now. Well, clearly you can see, I think that should be flipped and Singletary should be the priority guy. And the fact that he goes later, I might own some Singletary, but still it's not a backfield I'm like sprinting to get into.
No, and just to reiterate that point, the big board, which I know I am up to date on, you've got Singletary as your RB38, Moss is your RB44. Again, you're not like scrambling out to get the RB38.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right, but let's move out to somebody you might be scrambling to get, and that is Stefan Diggs. Hopefully haven't been adjusted too much, but I had him at 123 catches, a little over 1,500 yards and 11 touchdowns, and that was on 171 targets. Not bad. That had him as your wide receiver 3 on both lists, followed by Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley. Neither one of them doing anything too exciting, but you do have Sanders being targeted over 90 times and Beasley being targeted over 90 times.
Yeah, exactly. With the 90 targets to Sanders being just a little more fantasy friendly in the sense that I think he's a good touchdown scorer. You can get it all done over the field, but he's going to kind of replace that John Brown deep threat element alongside, of course, Gabriel Davis, a great deep threat who led this team in receiving touchdowns a year ago besides Stefan Diggs. Like, this guy, Davis, can really sprint down the field. The only questions now with the receiving core we saw pop up today, Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis cannot practice for the next 5 days due to COVID protocols. Both of them have been pretty staunch anti-vaxxers this entire time. I wonder how that's going to play out. They've even said that the paper speculated Beasley could even be released. This was their second highest targeted receiver last year. A middle of the chains field, moves them all the time. So dependable on that role for him in a PPR league. That would be massive if Beasley's presence is removed. I mean, Sanders would skyrocket, as would Davis, should Beasley's presence end up getting removed. He was only about a 67% player last year, but very focused on the third downs, the chain moving situations. I expect that to continue as well. I'm just so high on Sanders because we had Joe Bashuli on, the beat writer for The Athletic. Awesome interview. If you guys haven't heard that one yet, he was raving about Sanders. I know he's missed a little time with practice, but he said, anytime he's out there, Allen is just peppering him. They're getting that rapport down. He's doing things that John Brown couldn't do in addition to being able to stretch the field. So I really am bullish on Sanders. As you can see here, 781, 7 touchdowns at around, 13, 14 price. Give me that all day. And Diggs, of course, one of the only receivers in addition to Tyreek Hill, in addition to Devontae Adams, that I'd ever even consider entering round 1 is Stefan Diggs. Those targets might seem insane, but that's what he put up last year, Nat, the most targeted, most used wide receiver in the NFL last year. And now he gets 17 games. So assuming he plays all 17, I don't see any reason why. These are right in line with what he did last year. So maybe a little bit of a dip in a per game production percentage, just because 17 games maintaining what he did would be crazy. But yeah, you can't go wrong with Stefan Diggs targeting Sanders late and Beasley and Davis late. I mean, this is one of those aerial pies. You want all the pieces you can get.
Beasley, and just a little comment on that, regardless of what you think about the vax stuff, he sent out a tweet, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or something like that. It just made me think he was like one of the stupidest people I'd ever seen in my life. He goes,
very true.
He goes, yeah, sure. Cut me. What? Yeah, sure. Cut like the best slot receiver in the NFL. Go ahead. And it's just like, What sport are you watching, dude? Like, he's like a pretty good slot receiver.
Right. Exactly. Elevated significantly by the players around him. Like he's he's expendable. Like if they cut him, they cut it. Like, these guys get replaced pretty easily. Like you saw the freaking Steelers were willing to get rid of Antonio Brown, who is the best receiver in football when they did it. He's not Cole Beasley. Anyway, are you getting a little concerned? I haven't seen our usuals, the Tunes, the Mitches. Like, is this not going out to people? Where are our guys?
I know. I guess, but even if we're speaking into a vacuum, we're going to do it anyway.
Of course. It'll still be up there live. We did get, I will have to shout out my guy, Brian Cronenberger there, BK. Tune says, I'm here. They're just watching and tuning in. All righty. Fair enough. But he was at the bachelor party I was at last weekend. Good to see you, BK. Thank you so much for joining. Of course, again, guys, reiterating, if you have questions, we'll hit them all at the end. So please get those in. We'd be more than happy to help you with any of your fantasy dilemmas at the end of the show. But so pumped to see you, man. It was a blast this weekend chilling.
All right, here we go. We're going to spend like about 10 seconds on the tight end, Dawson Knox.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I mean, that's kind of moving on. Too many.
Right.
They are getting, I will say though, they're getting higher on like his athleticism. I guess he's really chopped down on the drops, which was plaguing him all last year. And Allen is just doing his best to work him in. I guess before, when I was projecting him out, Hollister was kind of nibbling at his cheese, looking like a potential, vulture in that sense. But here, Dawson Knox, I guess, is really separated in camp. Hollister's kind of taken a backseat. He's been hurt. And when he's come back, hasn't really shown much. So Joe Bashuli was saying, the touchdown upside is pretty real with Knox. He did want to emphasize, this is the fifth option on the target totem pole at best. So you're not going to get consistent stats. But as a guy in best ball that will go for a random touchdown or two any given week, with the potential, he did say, the athleticism, he is 6'5". He did run like a 4.6 at that big height. There is a size speed element to his game. He just had so much inconsistency, especially with his hands last year. I wonder, if he can really truly take that leap as a fourth or fifth option on the totem pole. So yeah, not all that in on Dawson Knox, but as a last round stab, I like Parham more. I like Tyler Croft more. But Knox is one of those guys you could take a stab at.
All right. Well, speaking of people you're not that excited about, we're about to get into 3 full teams of them. We're going to go right on to
buckle up, guys.
Move on to the Dolphins. Great. Right. Miami, of course, it's the Tua show, at least allegedly this year. And you got him down at 360 out of 568, a little over 4,100 yards, 30 touchdowns, 13 picks. Those are generous stats, in my opinion, to go along with 56 rushes, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was good enough, at least when I initially did my research, for 16th on your projection board and 21 on the big board.
Yep, that's about where he lines up. There's obviously some risk with Tua, but they fully went all in this year. All the reports are he has been lighting it up down deep in practice. The big issue with me now, though, is all his receivers have been hurt the entire time, save Jalen Waddle. I don't know where everybody is. Fuller still hasn't practiced. Parker's been in and out throughout the time. And that's kind of what this receiving core is. Preston Williams hasn't been seen from yet. It's a pretty gross receiving core in that sense. But ultimately, if they are out on the field, I mean, Fuller and Waddle can run as fast as anybody in the league, save Tyreek Hill. Parker, we've seen be a big body possession guy that can go up and get it when you're in trouble. So Tua does have some weapons around him. If he has, he was so tentative last year, seems scared. If that truly is changed, and it looks like so far this preseason, he's passing the eye test, save a horrible interception in his first contest.
Yeah.
He has looked significantly better, and that's with throwing to nobody. So I am slowly starting to buy into Tua. There's second quarterbacks I like more, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, even Big Ben, after what we saw in this preseason week 2 with him slinging the rock and looking like he's 5 years younger. There's definitely some guys I prefer as a QB2, but I don't mind Tua. And as you said, the 3 rushing touchdowns, about 300 yards, not like a Konami threat in the sense of Josh Allen, who we were just talking about, but still has some legs, still can move the change a little bit like Mahomes in that sense. Like he's not going to run all over the field, but he can pick you up 10, 5, a little rushing touchdown every couple weeks. Like he's that type of Konami.
And they had this is just a slight offshoot of that. I was looking at a picture from like the quarterback room from back when he was at Bama. They had him, Mack Jones, and Hurts.
Jalen Hurts.
Same room, basically. That's kind of cool.
Pretty good recruiting over there at Bama. They've done a decent job, I'd say.
Yeah, they've done all right for themselves.
Right.
All right, let's move on to running back. And you do have a bit of a change that's going to be coming here in the form of Myles Gaskin. I'll just say before, so you had him at 170 carries for 734 and 5 touchdowns to go along with kind of pedestrian receiving numbers. At the time that you made that, you had him as your running back 34 projections. I think you're liking him a little more, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if you wrote down exactly where he's landed on my big board in the last.
You had him at 31, I want to say.
Yeah, so I bumped him up a tad. So let's go through that. Based on, I bumped him down pretty hard. Sometimes I react a little too aggressively to preseason action, but when a 7th round running back, Gaskin, did great under the coaching staff last year, but they have a new play caller coming in, and then they go and start the free agent they brought in, I started to get worried that maybe this is going to truly be a Malcolm Brown backfield. He started the first preseason game. Thankfully, Gaskin was in first this last week. He did play ahead of Malcolm Brown, who only saw 5 snaps with Tua. But then also Salvin Ahmed played 13 to 19 for Gaskin. Gaskin was in for 19 of 37 first-team snaps, so about a 50% snap share there. And I think that's reasonable. I have him here at 40. I'm going to bump him up to, let's call it 43. So a slight bump up there. I'm going to bring up Ahmed and bump down Brown, who was again the 3rd guy in. So let's put Brown now at 15, and then let's see what that leaves us for Ahmed, who I do think is actually, he brings a nice speed element. The coach has talked a lot about wanting to use a 3-back committee. So I think this seems about fair, right? Like 43% of this ground pie, which 432 attempts isn't all that high. No. 43 going to Gaskin, 27 going to Ahmed, and about 15 to Malcolm Brown. You never want something that's like that evenly distributed anyways, except Gaskin does have a little bit of burst to his game. So I think I'm underplaying the yards per carry. I think I could bump that up to about 4.7. That's going to get him to right around 800. Yeah, 874. So that's a decent bump. And we saw it this weekend catching that touchdown. He is a pretty explosive receiver when he gets the chance. So that might go a lot to Ahmed. I think this receiving distribution, it's very unclear. It's like a 3-way split for receiving work. So I'm just going to leave that untouched. But a little bit of bump up for Gaskin. That will bring him probably right around in line with that 31 on the big board, 31 in the projections here, bumping him up.
But again, just like we said with the Bills backfield, it's not like you're super excited about it.
No. And neither am I really for these receivers all that much.
Oh, gosh. Oh, we're getting to that. There's nothing to really be too excited about there. Real quick, why don't you change the banner at the bottom? You still got the Bills up.
Oh, good call. Right. Thank you for that.
Right. So we referred to these, receivers, Will Fuller, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker. Okay, so there have been a few changes. I'll just say your projections, you had Waddle actually at 35, Fuller at 48, Parker at 54. The big board, and I believe some of those have changed, but the big board, you had Waddle all the way up at 44, Fuller 51, Devontae Parker 67. I believe those are current. I don't want to read out the stats because I don't want to get them wrong, but I think you had Waddle with 104 targets leading the way.
Yep, and that's still what I have here. And I don't know if I'm going to change a ton because it's still tricky to get a read on what's going to happen when they actually have Fuller and Parker in the lineup alongside Waddle. We saw Waddle get peppered this last weekend as the clear alpha. He's by far the most intriguing guy, as you can see in those rankings. Like the only guy I think could truly emerge as a difference maker. That's why I have him ranked so far ahead of these guys, even though the projections are all kind of shaking out similarly. I do think Waddle brings so much speed, but also run after the catchability. And that's an element they were missing last year. That's what Tua does the best, is those anticipation, those timing throws, a quick slant from Waddle that he hits him in stride. Waddle takes to the house. That's the type of play I'm envisioning happening quite often for Jalen Waddle, depending on how they use him. I don't have all that much faith that this offensive, it's the run game and the tight end coach of last year merging to make this offense. I don't know what that's going to look like. It hasn't looked all that great to start the preseason, but if there's one receiver here that I want to target, it is absolutely Jalen Waddle, who I have going for 69 catches, 938 yards, 6 TDs. Those TDs could certainly bump up if Will Fuller gets hurt, as he always does, if Parker gets hurt, as he always does. But I should also preface that by saying Waddle is not a injury-free guy. He was banged up all of college. Every single year was dealing with something. And I imagine that's going to continue. That's why I was kind of surprised they went after him, given that how they already have so many injury-prone guys. I do like him the most by far out of all these guys, though.
Yeah, I like him the most too, but it's like I'm trying to think of a group of 3 lousy things, and then you like one of them the best. But I'm coming up with a little bit of a blank right there. And it's like Christopher, Paulie Walnuts, and Silvio, and you're like, yeah, Silvio's the smartest on The Sopranos.
Okay. Right, exactly. Yeah, the skinniest guy at obese camp type of thing.
Right. Man, look at him. He's like a solid 270. Right. All right. Let's go and let's look at it. That's that trim guy over there. Anyway, let's talk Mike Gesicki. That's your tight end. You had him as your tight end 8, actually, by projections, and tight end 12 on your big board. 62 catches, almost 800 yards, 9 touchdowns, right around 100 targets.
Yeah, big into Gesicki, the second on the target totem pole, in my opinion here, behind only Waddle. And honestly, at the end of the year, given the injuries that could happen to that receiver core, wouldn't be shocked at all if Gesicki paced this team in targets. In fact, he did over Tua's starts throughout last year. First preseason game, Tua threw 6 of his 11 passes to a tight end. 3 of them were to Gesicki, which he ripped up for 50 yards, had another 40-yard catch in week 2, showing all that big play athleticism. I guess the one concern I have with Gesicki is he doesn't play a ton of 2 tight end sets or even single tight end sets unless it's a clear-cut passing down. He kind of rotates in on those snaps, and it's been very tricky and historically for a tight end that's a pass-catching specialist only to truly carve out top 10 fantasy status. Gesicki did it last year. I think he could do it again because Tua loves him so much and he's such a good athlete. But yeah, he is going to climb an uphill battle if he doesn't grow into a true tight end every down guy, which so far this preseason, he hasn't been, even though he's been making plays all over the field. So that's kind of the balance there for me. But yeah, I have him projected for the second most targets and fantasy points among these wide receivers and tight end pass catching core.
All right, let's move on to the Patriots. You remember when the Patriots used to be good?
Fuck off. Yeah, I knew you were gonna freaking asswipe.
Well, I mean,
they're gonna be good again.
They might be the second best team in this division, dude. They might be the second best team in the division. Oh, come on.
They're gonna come in second at worst this year.
They look at worst.
At worst, they're coming in second.
You think they might win this? Do you think there's a chance they're going to win this division?
They almost beat the Bills in both times they played them last year. Cam Newton just fumbled it away like a moron. If I really have a very high opinion of Mack Jones, probably my delusional star boy Patriots fans' eyes gleaning over him. But I think he's the real deal. I think by the time he takes over, this offense could really take off.
All right. Well, I mean, they beat up on the Eagles' second string in preseason, so they do have that going for them.
They're good, man. They're good. They're going to be good. Wait till you see this defense is great. The line is unbelievable. They're going to just pound out the clock and just bludgeon you. That's going to be their motto this year, and I think they're going to do it quite well.
Bludgeon you with Sony Michel. All right. Anyway, let's talk. I don't know what we can really say about the quarterbacks because you had them, at least when I did my research, right around an even split, and
it still is.
It's not really clear that anything has changed. What you're going to know. You had Newton going for like 147 out of 228, a little over 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6 picks, 87 rushes for 348 yards, 8 TDs. You had Mack, 188 out of 278, 21-25 in the air, 14 touchdowns, 7 picks. Obviously, this is like a clusterfuck, right? I just want to say your rushing numbers for Newton seem overly generous. 348 and 8 touchdowns? Really? I mean, I feel like he hasn't done anything on the ground in like 3 years.
Then you didn't pay attention to last year because even while
I didn't. I turned most of their games off halfway through the first quarter. Was he running all over the
deservedly
place?
so. They weren't really worth your appointment viewing there. But he was third in terms of goal line attempts among every rusher, including running backs. I think he finished with like 12 or 15 rushing touchdowns in 12 games. He had
15 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, I think he had 12 to 15. I don't remember the exact amount off the top of my head, but
right.
yeah.
I mean, if that's true, then I take back what I said. I had no idea. I would have guessed like 3.
And I think he had more rushing touchdowns than he had passing touchdowns last year too.
Well,
he was their goal line back.
That wouldn't be hard. I mean, how many running backs in the league had 15 touchdowns last year? How come people weren't talking about this? Like nobody, like 1 maybe, right?
Yeah, it might have been 12. It was somewhere between 12 and 15.
I mean, 12's a lot.
But it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. And I think he will for however long he starts. The reports early right now are there's all but certain they're going to start Cam. I think that they'll probably ride that out. My guess is they face Tom Brady in week 6, right? I can't imagine, unless Mack Jones is already starting, they're going to chuck this guy to the Wolves and have him face Brady in his first start.
Real quick, Toons just came in with the save on stats. 12 rushing touchdowns, 8 passing touchdowns for Cam. Go ahead. Thanks.
There you go.
It's better than I thought.
Yes, exactly.
The passing was right around exactly what I thought.
Exactly. So these stats tell me about a half season of Newton, a half season of Mack Jones is kind of how I'm looking at it.
Right.
I would much rather it be very clear it's Mack Jones coming into the year. And, after this latest COVID scare with Cam going to be out for at least 5 days, maybe that's just going to give just enough of a window to Mack Jones, who I think has been super impressive throughout this entire preseason, the window to take over. Perhaps, maybe, I don't know. It certainly would help guys like Damien Harris to not have the goal line vulture of Cam, although they could very easily do a Taysom Hill type of thing where they bring Cam in and have him run it in at the goal line, even if Mack's starting. So to me, it's just one of those QB situations. We're spending a lot of words here on a situation that neither one of us know. We both know better. We're not going to draft either of these guys unless it's very, very deep best ball and you have only 2 quarterbacks. You want to take a stab on Newton having a few big weeks early. But yeah, I won't be touching these guys at all. I am interested in the running backs, which we're going to get to now, but I am going to have to adjust these guys for sure too.
All right. Change the banner to the Patriots. All right. So Damien Harris, this is a guy that we both kind of liked. I mean, I still like him. You had him for 234 rushes, 1076 on the ground, 7 touchdowns, a little bit of passing work, trailed by Sony Michel and James White. White obviously getting, a lot fewer carries, but you got him catching like 50 balls, scoring a couple there. You're a little bit more down on Harris.
Yeah, I'm going to be bumping him down just a little bit here. And that's because so far it's been a mixed bag for the preseason. In sense of, I love the line. They are moving everybody, blowing everybody off the ball. And Damien Harris is the first man to the table. And all he's done is eat. He looks like he has more burst, more wiggle. He scored a goal line touchdown last week. He is everything you'd want to see from a back. The only thing that's concerning is he saw 8 snaps last week to 4 for Sony to 5 for James White. Nobody playing more than 50%. And I had thought with these projections I originally made that maybe he's going to really separate and take over and be like that lead early down guy with not much competition. But for what it's worth, Sony has actually looked pretty good. They've hyped him up in camp. And so I'm going to be bumping about 39% now of the rushing workload goes to Harris. And then I'm going to bump Sony up just a little bit. So that leaves us with 4%. So we'll bump, Sony up to 19 or so. And that might honestly be too generous because they often like to keep it really close, alternating series. And
we've seen it before, right?
Exactly.
The Patriots backfield is kind of an ongoing fantasy joke.
It really
we kind of got our hopes up about Harris, but it seems like maybe it's just going to be more of the same.
Right, exactly. So I did, when it comes out, that brings him from 1,007 to like 975 and 6. Not a huge downgrade, not an awful stat line by any means, but I had him, early round 6, 7, like at the latest running back. I'd feel better about him late 7, early 8 at this point. Bumped him below guys that could be true 3-down threats like Chase Edmonds, the San Fran guys, even though they're in a committee, a little more upside in my opinion. So I bumped him down a little bit in the rankings. And I think this little projection ding will probably have him falling right into that same alignment in that rankings. Yeah.
All right, let's talk receivers. Household names: Jacoby Myers.
Before we do that,
you got more to say. Go.
Could I pause you?
Sure.
I do want to mention, I guess it goes more so with receivers. James White's played every single of the third down snaps. He's seen 3 targets in both preseason games. It's looking like the same old James White, regardless of who is at QB. So I might be underselling his target share a little bit here, only 61 targets. I do want to bump him up. In fact, why don't we let that segue us? Why don't you talk about what I had for receivers? And I'm going to kind of adjust this a little bit as we move forward with this.
All right. And just to be clear, not to step on the James White thing, I have James White I got him in my auction. I got him really cheap, and I actually feel pretty good about it. I'm lacking running back depth. He's the type of guy I feel pretty confident is going to get me at least points if I have to put him in.
I think he's the ultimate late round, especially if you go 0 running back, that new popular strategy in PPR leagues. He is the ultimate. He falls to around 15. You're going to get probably 5 catches almost every single week. It's as good as a touchdown. Like, he is the steadiest round 14, 15 guy. I also do like McKissick and Bernard in that same type of vein, but I would have James White above all of those guys. He is still clearly involved with this team and in this offense.
All right, well, let's talk about the receivers you alluded to. Jacoby Myers, and I'm not really trying to hate on Jacoby Myers. I actually think he's a pretty good player, but
I'm going to be bumping him up here too.
But I'm not excited about him exactly. You had him for 56 catches, 700 yards, 3 touchdowns on 96 targets. You had Algholor coming in 53 catches, 689 yards, 6 touchdowns on 81 targets. And there's not a murderer's row of guys behind them either. But one thing that I think is interesting about your projections on this, and I doubt this will change even if some of your numbers do, we're not seeing a high catch percentage for either guy. And I assume that's both a reflection of them and the people throwing to them.
It's more so the people throwing to him. I was going to say that's one thing I'm going to change for Myers. It's clear he's going to be manning that slot role, which historically has been a 25% target rate, 75% catch rate because of how high percentage those looks are. It's very clear that's what they're going to have Myers doing. So I'm actually going to bump him up to, I think, 67. I think I switched him and Algholor in the pecking order here. And I think Algholor is more so that deep threat with that 58% or so catch rate. So I'm glad you caught that, Nat. And this seems a little bit more reasonable. I am, as I said, going to bump up Jimmy White to about a 15. I'll go 14% share here. I'm going to bump up Jakobi to 20. He's been operating as the clear number 1 throughout camp, every report. And then so far in the preseason, that's also played out where last week we saw it 3 of 3, 50 yards and a touchdown, looked great. He didn't score any touchdowns last year, but looked like a bull running it in this last week. So I'm going to bump his production up, bumping Jimmy up, and I'm going to have that at the expense of, I'll take 2% away from Kendrick Bourne, maybe 1% away from
no.
Right, yeah, exactly. These beasts. But I really think in terms of passing game weapons, Algholor, Bourne might have a couple big days here and there, but the only steady value you're going to find here is Myers and James White in the passing game. I'm going to give I think there's a little more touchdown upside to what Myers showed last year. I mean, Scott Barrett, one of the best experts we have on every single year.
He's awesome.
He's so good. He called Myers his league winner. That was his league-winning wide receiver as a late-round guy. I was aligned with that. I've been landing Myers in round 13, 14 of every draft. He started to climb up the more and more he thrives in the preseason. But I still love him at his price where you can get him around 14, 15, assuming Callaway, Marshall, some of these higher big body guys are gone. I love Myers. PPR, I think he could be a steal this year.
All right, let's move on to tight ends. And this really fits nicely with pretty much everything else on the Patriots, which is just like, oh, everyone's nibbling everybody's cheese all the time. There's just this one block of cheese, and they're all scurrying up to it and taking bites, and no one's getting their own piece of cheese. Jonnu Smith, you had him at 48 for 576 and 5 touchdowns, closely followed by perennial disappointment, Hunter Henry, 45 catches, 495 for 5 touchdowns. Man, you remember how much we used to like Hunter Henry?
Yeah, he was such a beast as a rookie, and then like continued every sophomore year. He missed some time, but he killed it in the games he played. It just never really came to fruition, unfortunately. Yeah. I do think he's still a plus athlete, big body, will definitely catch his touchdowns.
I mean, you have basically even numbers for these guys.
Exactly. I think Jonnu Smith, if I had to take one, it would be Jonnu. And I think I'm aligned with people, and there's a lot of smart people in the industry and friends as well that really think Jonnu's going to kill it in this offense. And he could. Like, you hear those, now they've got Gronk Hernandez 2.0 comparisons lobbied out there. And when prime Tom Brady's not here, it certainly is not that situation. And neither of these guys are on the level of either of those two. So let's get to that.
When those guys hear that comparison, they're both really quick to be like, I want to be Gronk.
Right. Yeah. And I think Jonnu is actually the more so than Hernandez, the better athlete, the guy they'll put in the slot. So good after the catch. I mean, Belichick, when they faced the Titans in the playoffs, was saying, this is the best run after the catch guy in the NFL, praising him. And then he goes out and gets him. So you know there's his brain is ticking. How do I want to use this guy? But I do think fantasy-wise, like they're going to be great real life. I think our offense is going to be significantly more dangerous with these guys. But I still don't expect either of them to be viable week to week because, as you said, they're two mouses eating each other's cheese every single week. One day it might be Hunter Henry with 2 touchdowns. The next day it might be Jonnu Smith with 9 catches. But if one of them was going to be consistent week to week, I do think it would be Jonnu Smith in that higher probability, the yak type of role. I think he could be the more consistent of the guys. But as a whole, those are 2 tight ends I'm definitely avoiding in fantasy at their current prices.
Absolutely. Yeah, we spent a long time on the Patriots there, who, again, the Wolf says are going to be good.
Yeah, I think they're going to be great in real life. I really do think
great. What do you think? What do you think they're going to go?
I think they could win 10 to 11 games out of the 17-game slate. Like 11 and 6, I think is very, very reasonable. And that might still be second. But I think a wild card team, I think they make it back to the playoffs. And I think they're a team that nobody's going to really want to face because of this defense, because of the run game. They're the type of team that's like built to upset better offenses in the playoffs. I'm a Patriots fan, of course, and I know I'm always an optimistic fantasy projector as well as fantasy fan of my home team. But I'm feeling really good about this run game, this defense, and when Mack Jones takes over, I think the kid's the real deal. I think we're set up well for the future.
All right, let's talk about the Jets. Last but not least, they really might be least. The Jets.
Probably the least.
So the one guy here that you do seem to like is Zack Wilson. You think he's kind of been establishing himself as the guy. You had him at 344 out of 510 for 37.25. Yards, 23 touchdowns, 15 picks to go along with 64 rushes for 333 and 3 touchdowns. Not like amazing stats. That was good enough projection-wise to have him be your QB 25. You had him as 20 on the big board, so you liked him a little more than that. You said you're going to probably come up on him a little bit?
Yeah, I certainly am for a few reasons. One, the kid's looking really fucking good. I mean, he can sling the ball. The quarterbacks, you watch the ball come out of their hands, and it just is like effortlessly zipping down the field. And that was him. He had to move around in the pocket a bit. There's nobody open. Dodged a guy. Corey Davis got open, just zipped it like 40 yards off his hand. Boom, just flies down the field. Love to see it. Love the arm talent. And then the defense just keeps getting obliterated with injuries. Carl Lawson, their big acquisition, a great player, tears his Achilles. He's going to be out for the year. Then they just hit, I forget exactly who it was. I believe it was another secondary member. And this defense really wasn't very good at all last year. One of the worst defenses in the league. They were expected to take a nice step forward, which is why I had this offense at the minus 57 in terms of league total average, trying to run the ball 460 times. That's what Salah's going to want to do, coming over as the D coordinator from the 49ers. That's his mentality. I don't think they're going to have the ability to do that, though, now that they're losing their biggest horses on defense. I think it's going to be a lot more of a shootout style narrative. And plus, the running backs just suck. Like Carter was supposed to be good. We're going to get to that in a little bit. So I'm going to bump down these rush attempts to 440. That's even, I think, a little high. I'm going to bring them down to 420, but I'm going to bump up the pass attempts quite a bit. 420, one of my favorite numbers of all time. Such a tool. and then I'm going to pump up his pass.
That one, the high school kids love that one.
Yeah. Ooh. I'm going to bump this up to 5. I really think he's going to have to approach 600 pass attempts, given how bad this defense is. So let's see what that does for the numbers. He was under 4,000. I think this is going to really bump them up. Yeah, so now 4,300, 28, and 18. That seems a bit right. I honestly might be even a little higher. I think he's one of the few rookies right now that you're going to get all 16 games playing on a bad team, so he's going to have to sling. And the arm looks just as good, if not better, than any of the other rookies we've seen so far. So why do I have him below everybody? That's kind of my talking aloud to myself here. I'm getting really high on Zack Wilson, especially as a potential bridge to the Trey Lance, who I love. I think is going to be the season winner this year, to the Justin Fields, who could also be that season winner. Give me Zack Wilson. Give me Big Ben late. Or, of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I said we've already gushed about him a million times. 2 good bridges there. Wilson giving you a bit more upside than a guy like Big Ben, who we know. Give me that uncertain but sexy product like Zack Wilson to pair with one of those other rookie quarterbacks. That's going to be my approach to everywhere this year.
All right, this was the biggest discrepancy as we move on to the running backs that you had amongst your projections to your big board, and I know that you have done a little bit to change it. I'm not going to read you stats, but I'm just going to talk to you about the running backs. We had Tevin Coleman. We had Michael Carter. You had Michael Carter as projection-wise your running back 22. On your big board, you had him at 40. How do you reconcile that difference?
As you can see here, I'm moving the depth chart. I'm going to also adjust the receivers while I'm in this tab, Corey Davis and Elijah Moore. That's going to change as well. So we'll be talking about those things in a second. But yeah, nobody's fallen harder this last week on my big board than Michael Carter, who was in my top 25 running backs. Yeah. And he has also now been entering the game behind Tevin Coleman, behind Ty Johnson, and also behind LaMichael Pirine. It's asinine. He didn't play any first-team snaps with Zack Wilson so far this entire preseason. And that goes contrary. The reason I had him so highly projected is all the reports were running with the first team, best pass-catching back in camp, clearly going to be a factor this year, a step ahead of all the running backs. And he can't play above any of them on the preseason. I mean, what's happening there? So he is tumbled down the rankings. Still probably the first Jets running back I'd take because, I mean, the other guys are Ty Johnson.
Yeah, but like, are you taking any Jets running back almost under any circumstances?
Exactly. The only reason you would is if you were in a situation, and your situation might kind of rival this, Nat, where you have one anchor, a great Christian McCaffrey, but you don't have a good number 2 that you feel confident about. I do think a guy like Tevin Coleman, at least early in the season, is going to see about 12 to 15 carries a week. So that's just some volume that you wouldn't otherwise have. So ultimately, I like that the only reason I'd like these guys. I do like Ty Johnson because he goes in round 20 if you're drafting in deeper leagues. And Carter, I still think is worth a stab because he's a great pass catching back on a team that doesn't really have many of them. So I do think eventually he's going to get involved. But right now, not nearly as involved to be inside, certainly not my top 25 running backs, never mind my top 40 anymore. So I'm bumping down him big. I'm going to kind of make this mess of a projection. Like, let's call Tevin Coleman 30%. Let's call Ty Johnson, 18 or like 19. And then what's that going to leave us for, Mr. Michael Carter here? That leaves us with 20. Yeah, I'll give Ty Johnson 22%. And the rest I'll give to Michael Carter as like a change of pace guy, 82. So that means we have about 18. So let's give him to like 20. Let's give him 24. See what we're left with carries here. It's just gross though, as you can see. Like I'm projecting this out, and it's just like nobody knows how it's gonna go.
Yeah. And I remain completely uninterested in any of these guys.
Yeah, right. Like the 22.
I appreciate you're trying to sell. You said, hey, this might work for your situation. No, there's a bunch of guys I'd way rather have.
Right, exactly. There's no clear lead horse, whereas I thought it was going to be Carter with about 40% of the carries. As you can see, I want nothing to do with this. Tevin Coleman, again, like late, maybe could be okay. But yeah, it's not very exciting.
All right, let's move on to receivers. And just to mention, breaking news coming through on our group text with the RSJOGs. Reporter Duck says Etienne likely out for the season. So
no way, really?
Yeah. CJ's response, oh no.
Oh no, very, very emphatic response there.
Something like that. I don't remember. It popped up on my screen just a second. Oh boy, sorry, it was oh boy. Anyway, so that's the late breaking news that you tune in for here, or actually early breaking news.
I mean, we'll be doing that division, I think, tomorrow.
We'll
right?
be talking about them later if we want to talk about bad teams.
Tomorrow.
Don't sleep on the Jags when it comes to bad teams.
Tomorrow at 1:30, you'll get my updated projections. But James Robinson's going to soar. Like I already bumped him up, thinking that I accounted for the Etienne injury, thinking he was going to be out for, let's say, 6 games, maybe the PUP to start the year. So I bumped Robinson to like my RB20. He's probably going to approach top 12 now. I mean, he was the running back 4 last year, and now it's just him and Carlos Hyde. Like,
oh man, don't sleep on Carlos Hyde. He was kind of good 6 years ago. Anyway, some people in the comments are commenting on that, so we'll talk about that at the end of the show. Let's just finish this dumpster fire up real quick.
Right.
The Jets receivers, Elijah Moore, you used to be pretty high on him. You actually had him as your wide receiver 29 on projections, and you had Corey Davis as 66. But then when forced to go to the big board, which I know is more accurate now, you actually had Davis up at 33 and Moore had fallen down to 47. You like them each getting in the 100 target range, something like that. And then you got Jamison Crowder, I don't want to say the corpse of Jamison Crowder necessarily, but maybe like a deathly ill version.
Yeah, right. Because he was actually a stud for long stretches of last year. But a lot of that, Adam Gase loves peppering his slot. In addition to Sam Darnold, always targeting 25% or higher of his slot. That's just not going to be here this year with Moore and Davis added on the outside. He had no one to contend with last year, Jamison Crowder, Brashad Perriman, give me a break. So I had Moore at the top. So let me kind of explain why this is changing, because this is really important. I love Moore. Think he's probably the best talent here. Still could, by the end of the year, see him emerge as the number 1 guy. All the reports were in training camp he was dominant, looked like an alpha, training with A.J. Brown all offseason from that Ole Miss program that churned out DK, A.J. Brown, now him, and he's supposed to be like on their level. I mean, that guy could still be a stud. But a quad injury knocked him out of training camp for the last 2 weeks, and in that 2-week span, all the reports have been Corey Davis has emerged as Zack Wilson's go-to guy. They've formed an inseparable bond. They're killing it together right now. And what do we see in the preseason action? Davis has run 13 routes. He's been targeted on 10 of those. That's nearly 80% of the time he's run a route. He's seen the ball come his way. That's obviously not going to happen in the regular season. And of course, when Moore comes down, that's another big mouth to potentially feed. But Corey Davis in that report, like that is something special. So Davis has been among the biggest risers on my big board this preseason. A guy that you've heard me, Nat, say some of the most unthinkable things about Corey Davis.
Things we can't repeat on this show. And we swear all the time on this show.
They're more vile than anything else that's ever come out of my mouth. I have ripped that guy so hard, and still, I believe in Zack Wilson's arm right now. I believe in the fact that he's getting peppered. They're showing this rapport. I really believe in the scheme. Mike LaFleur, comes from that Shanahan tree, was their passing game coordinator. The 49ers, LaFleur is his brother over the Packers. These offenses have become the new thing, and it's looking like he's executing it at a very high level. The spacing with the receivers has been great. Corey Davis has been running wide open multiple times, and that's kind of what happens in this offense. So I think Corey Davis emerging as the true alpha in an offense that's designed to pepper him, he's going to go down as a steal all the way up to my 77th overall, receiver 33, a guy that you'll probably be able to get in rounds 9 or 10 that should have gone 2 rounds earlier at worst. I could easily see him having a top 15 season. The only reason he wouldn't is because Moore is so good, Nat. Moore is unbelievable. If he plays.
I mean, we'll see. I am so skeptical of any pro-Jets propaganda that you're throwing out there of any kind. I really am.
Yeah.
All right. Look,
it should be.
I feel that I've come by that opinion, honestly, over the past, 30 years. Anyway, let's finish things up on tight end. You had Tyler Croft and Chris Herndon. When I did my research, you actually had them split up pretty evenly and with really no appeal either way. But it does appear that your opinion of Croft has skyrocketed in like the last couple hours.
It sure has, and I'm bumping that up right now. I had him at about an even one, but Croft has been running clearly ahead of him throughout camp right now, so I'm going to bump him up. And we saw this week in the preseason, 2 receiving touchdowns, the go-to guy for Moore when they got in close in the red zone. So, yeah, I'm definitely bumping him up. I got to mess around because Carter is now my RB3 on the depth chart. So I do think Carter is going to still see a decent target share, not 40%. Jeez. But yeah, so Croft's red zone upside is very, very real. I think he's going overlooked, and fantasy drafts is a potential last round stab that could do a lot more damage than he's being given credit for. So I'm going to project him for 11%. Sorry, 1 sec. So we're missing that. Let's give him 11% target share. Most of that coming in the red zone. That's why I've now bumped him up to 6 total touchdowns. We'll give Michael Carter a 10% target share, assuming he emerges as the third down back eventually. But I think Croft is a guy that 9 touchdowns might be a little bit hefty here. Let's give him 17% and see what that comes out to. I think 8 is very reasonable for a team that's going to be in the red zone more often than I think they have been in the last few years. Croft, again, that Lafleur passing game coming from the 49ers, we know how they've used Kittle. Croft is obviously not even close to Kittle, but as a red zone monster, I could see him really emerging and surprising and being one of those tight ends everybody's scrambling to get within a couple weeks.
We'll see, man. We'll see. That's going to do it. That's the AFC East. I mean, I know you're putting positive slants on some of these guys, and you've researched these dudes more than I have, but man, my instincts are just telling me stay away, absolutely stay away. We'll see what happens. Your Patriots pick 10-7, 11-6, maybe not crazy. I mean, the 2 teams at the bottom of this division look truly terrible. So we'll see. Let's hit the mailbag. We actually have gotten a few comments as the show has gone on from some of our regs.
Yeah.
Charlie says, yo. Brian says, yee.
That's BK right there. Love it.
Mike Schneider says, just watching. That's
the guys are reminding us. We're here. Don't you worry. We're here. I like it.
Give us a break. Charlie said, I had some questions about Michael Carter, so I'm glad you're all on them today. Yeah, I think the Wolf had some questions about Michael Carter, too. Yeah, none of them positive.
No, now we have a whole lot more questions.
ML, oh, good. Now we're talking about dreams. I love it when people tell us fantasy dreams. I had a dream last night that Breida rushed for 473 yards and 6 touchdowns week 1 of the regular season. It was weird. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Was it one of those dreams where you could tell you were dreaming, or did it seem really real at the time?
Yeah.
Because the ones that seem really real at the time are the ones that really rattle me when I get up.
Oh man, Breida, that's a season's worth of stats in one game. Look at that, ML. If he runs for 100 yards at any point this year in any game, I'll eat a shoe on hair for you, Mike, or ML, whatever your name is. Actually,
I get to pick the shoe.
Yeah.
Right. Charlie Prebs, I had Etienne. I think he's in. I heard Etienne go down last night. We actually touch on that a little later, and I know there's some comments about that.
Yeah, it wasn't expected to be season ending, so this is tricky.
If anything could have possibly made my dynasty draft team worse, that would have been it. Anyway, BK says Waddle gang. Yeah.
I'm in on Waddle. He's a good talent. I just need to see him stay healthy. But I think him and Tua, obviously the past rapport there, like it could be the fact that I have him at 41 and I'm like 10 spots higher than the ECR. People are sleeping on this guy right now. He could be a real beast.
I like this. This is a question specifically for me from Tunes. I got Nick's opinion, but Truth, what do you think of my draft last night? 10-person. Okay, so 10 team. Full PPR, redraft, picked 6th in order. Devontae Adams, Ridley, Mixon, Robinson, Carson, Ayuk, Javonte Williams, Herbert, Mike Thomas, Mike Williams, Irv Smith, Higbee, Pats D, Justin Fields, Jason Myers. I got to tell you, Tunes, I know teams are inflated a little because there are 10 teams there, but man, that's a great squad. looks like to me. I mean, the only guy I don't like is Mixon, and some of that's for personal reasons. But, as far as picking 2 wide receiver studs to start and then getting a backfield of Mixon and Carson with some, decent depth behind that, man, I really love it. And then you got Robinson as your third receiver. Ayuk is your 4th. Then, you got quarterback flexibility. I really, really like it.
Yeah, good I had nothing but good things to say. The only thing I wrote to him was, as he sent it to me, Marquez Callaway was catching his 2nd touchdown. I was like, did you pick him up yet? And so he's dropping his kicker, I hope.
That's what Callaway I did. Too. I dropped Ryan Suckup, no longer a member of my team, but Marquez Callaway has got a spot.
As he deserves.
Yeah, Craig Sarno, hey, boys.
What up, Sarno? Great to see you, brother.
Charlie says the Pats are going to play so slow.
It's going to be
a slog.
Every game's going to be a slog, and that's why I love Red Zone. I'll have the Pats on one TV, but I know where my eyes are going to be glued, certainly on the other.
They booted me off your friends and family plan, right?
Oh, I canceled it myself. I haven't been on it. I'm going to re-up.
No. They booted me off like at the end of last football season because they had been like tracking us for like 3 months. And once they realized it had been 3 months that I had not been signing in from around where you live, they were like, "You're not part of his family."
Oh, those! I was
like, "I'm not part of his family, but I am one of his friends." That was legit.
What pricks? Well, I'll be re-upping it now. We'll see.
When you re-up it, see if you can kick it my way again. I'd appreciate it. Yeah. Craig said, I have one question going into my draft. I can keep Josh Allen for a 5th or Herbert for a 12th. Allen is better, but Herbie is the better value, I think. What do you think, Wolf?
That is a tough one because you lock in Allen, my number 2 QB, for a 5th, but that's kind of what he's going for anyways. Whereas Herbert's going around 7 or 8. You gain 4 rounds of value. If you missed our show yesterday, Craig, I have Herbert going for nearly 5K and 50 touchdowns. So I'm all aboard the Herbert
QB 6, I think.
Yeah, I'm all aboard the Herbert Express. So for me, I would cut Allen, even though I know he's guaranteed for great numbers. I think Herbert's destined for very similar numbers. 7-round difference. Give me that all day.
I think I agree with the Wolf on that.
That was
Craig
12
said,
rushing TDs, 8 passes was Cam Newton. So
Craig wants to know if he should be targeting Peyton Barber in the mid rounds. A lot of laughing emojis. And my question to you, Craig, would be, why are you waiting for the mid rounds?
The biggest Peyton Barber fan of all time over there to my right.
One of those things where I was in on Peyton Barber 3 years ago, and I've never. I might as well have a tattoo across my chest.
Well, you have a jersey, right? You bought a jersey that year, if I'm not mistaken.
I bought a home and an away jersey.
Yeah. Whatever field they were at, you made sure to wear that one on your Sunday. Yeah. I love that our fans, the old school guys, will never let you live. And me, I've got my thing.
You got, where do you think I got my Peyton Barber information from?
Yeah. Right. Just your own brain.
Right. Just a lot of.
You got it from your heart now.
I dove deep. Right. Toon says Mack takes over in week 5 when they get past Brady and that Bucs defense, unless Newton is somehow on fire. That doesn't sound crazy to me. Although if they are 3-1 under Cam, something like that, I'll bet they don't change then.
Yeah.
BK Myers is a sleeper.
We love him. I absolutely love him, as you guys saw here. I think the stats I projected him for show the downside, but I don't think it accounted for how much upside he has, too.
Toon says Adam Schefter tweeted less than 5 minutes ago that Travis Etienne out for the season. Yeah, I didn't mean to give Duck the full credit. I assumed he probably got it from someone else. I didn't think the Jags had called him or anything like that.
Yeah. Urban Meyer on the phone. Duck, we have a story that I want you to break, of all people. That is crazy, though. We'll cover this in much more depth because we're doing that division tomorrow. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. But as Andrew McGrady just said, J-Rob's skyrocketing now. He's going to be going up to top 15, maybe even top 12. He was such a beast last year. I don't think he sees that type of volume. 90% of the snaps last year, that's not going to happen in an Urban Meyer committee. But yeah, this is the real deal. He's going to be back into that workhorse role, back towards 1,000-yard, 10 rusher there. It's a run-centric attack, and he's going to be the centerpiece. So he absolutely skyrockets, yeah.
All right, we got Etienne is injured. I have McCaffrey, Pollard, Ingram, and Hubbard. Am I going to be okay, or should I trade my stud receivers? I got Sutton, Keenan Allen, and Allen Robinson. I'm not sure I would call Sutton a stud.
I was going to say it's a little bit of a generous call, but you do certainly have a great 1-2 punch there with Keenan and Robinson. Yeah, this is pretty hideous, the end. After McCaffrey, Pollard, Ingram, Hubbard, I'm guessing there's no James White, Gio Bernard, any of these kind of usable guys. I'd say pick up Carlos Hyde. He's going to be sneaky involved now. It's going to be probably 70% J-Rob, 30%, maybe even more of a switch because Hyde is an Urban Meyer guy. So this is tough. We're probably going to have to move one. If you can get a good RB2 for Sutton somehow, do it.
Yeah,
but you might have to bite the bullet and trade Robinson for Carson or something of that nature. But yeah, right now, none of those other guys are useful right now. You got your handcuff, Ingram. I don't want anyone in Houston. And then Pollard could be an RB1 if something happens to Zeke, but won't be usable till then. So yeah, you got to do something in the end. You definitely have to do something. But let me know who's available. Maybe you don't have to go too crazy.
Noto 11. Thoughts on the 12th pick in my PPR draft? It is in a few days. I'm hoping Kelsey falls. What do you think? based on everything that I'm hearing from the Wolf, although it's not like we haven't seen it before, it seems unlikely that Kelce would fall to 12th.
Yeah, but if he does, no brainer. I got him at 11. I got him at 11 in a recent PPR draft, so you never know. He could. Preble, one of our everyday viewers, sent me his draft. He got him in round 2, like pick 20. It was fucking nuts. I couldn't believe that team, Prebs. I don't think he's going to fall there, no, but if he does, then absolutely. Like, there's no bigger edge. I would have him at 6 in a PPR league. So, yeah, if he falls to you, don't even think twice. Go for it.
Bill Jiggs, Mr. Wolf and Mr. Truth. Loving the division series every day. Full PPR Superflex League, pick 6. Would you lean workhorse or elite quarterback?
It's kind of weird seeing Bill Jagir on YouTube instead of Facebook. I'm so used to seeing either Bill or Katie Jagir popping up on Facebook. So, Bill, it's an interesting you're finding us on a different platform these days. But I'm glad you're enjoying the content. I appreciate you tuning in as always. Can't wait for the family draft. Still waiting for the details, Bill. Kind of get your ass in gear here. But full PPR Superflex, I would probably – it really depends. Do either of the 3 – full PPR, that also downgrades Henry. So, like, I guess it comes down to this. Does McCaffrey or Cook fall? And even if they did, I'd probably go like Josh Allen if he's there. If Josh Allen's there, I'm going to go him at 6. If he's not and Cook's there, I'd go Cook. And if both of those guys are gone, I would probably lean whatever your number 3 is. I personally think I have Kyler Murray number 3. But if you prefer Lamar, that's okay with me as well. I would most likely be targeting a QB though, assuming Cook is gone and Allen's already gone. But I'd like to ideally Josh Allen falls to you there.
Yeah, Superflex changes everything. BK, my first live stream. I'm coming back every day. Awesome. We are doing another one tomorrow, and we're doing another one on Thursday to round up the division series. And of course, the Wolf and I are going to be doing a lot more of these during the season.
Oh yeah, pretty much every day there's a live stream in season. Pretty much every day the summer there's this live stream. So we'll have something for you. This is one of the few ones that's like every single day at the same time, which is nice because clearly the same people are showing up for it, which I love. Awesome. Be here for those 2. I have 2 great interviews coming up on Friday as well. Jags, which is going to be now way more interesting than we ever expected. John Shipley's coming on, the Sports Illustrated writer for the Jags at 3:30. Going right in at 4:30 to the Bears. Another great, very interesting team. We'll have another game of Justin Fields under the belt to talk about too. So don't miss those on Friday, 3:30, 4:30. Go right into your weekend, get hammered right after, or with me. I'll probably be drinking for those interviews. Why not? They'll never come back after they see what happens to the Wolf after a few pops, but we'll see. But yeah, great. We're pumped that you're here, Brian. BK.
Do you think we're just going to be completely trashed week 1 on the Red Zone show? I mean, like,
I wonder if we'll ever top the levels of like when Justin Herbert needed 3 points and he got me 2, and I just had the exact quote. I've had 3 bottles of red wine. It's great. Justin Herbert's a huge fucking asshole. Like, it's gonna be tough to top that. It's gonna be tough to top that, but I don't know. I'm really excited for week 1 this year. Like, we could get there. If anybody can do it, Nat, it's us.
I know. All right. We'll see. We'll be checking. What are we, like 2 weeks away? Something like that?
2 weeks away, just about. I
2.5 weeks.
I think as of Sunday, when Sunday hits, it will be 2 weeks from that Sunday.
All right. BK wants to know, is Fitz a QB1 this year? I would say not a QB1, but a very serviceable fantasy QB.
Yeah, exactly. I have him ranked at QB 16, but that's also projecting him out for like 4,300 yards, 30 or so touchdowns. I'm super high on Fitz. I mean, he's been a QB1 in 75% of his games with Miami the last 2 years. And that was with nobody to throw to on a slow offense that ranked like 20th in pace, 22nd in pass attempts. The Washington team ranked 8th and 7th in those categories last year. So I absolutely like Fitz. I think he is the ideal bridge. Like, I would take Lance Fields over him, but then take Fitz right after to bridge to them. There is the risk, of course, like a 3-interception day. They are very high on Heineke. So, like, there is the risk, as always with Fitz, as any team he's ever been on, of him getting benched. But I do think for whatever games you get, he's going to be in that top 12 more often than not until that blow-up happens. It's going to happen at some point, but I do really like Fitz. I'm very, very high on him.
All right. The end wants to know if you should get David Johnson, Madison, or McFarland. And then it is worth noting that there's an LOL at the end there.
Yeah, they're all hideous. Honestly, like, the most usable of guys is David Johnson, but he's playing third string to Ingram and to Philip Lindsay, so he brings nothing to the table. I would say Madison, like if anything happened to that. The one you say here at the end might be the one I go for, and that's Booker. Only because there's already rumblings, they're going to take it slow with Saquon. There's optimism he's ready for week 1, but if he's not, we've seen Booker as the clear-cut guy behind him. 18 to 20 touches. He's one of those few handcuffs that, like, if the starter's out, you're getting 12-plus points. I think Booker would be that. So I'd probably snack him for now and hope that Barkley misses a week or two, and that gives you a little time to figure out your situation. But I would also be in the market very hard right now trying to get somebody.
Of those 4, I agree. I would take Booker actually pretty enthusiastically out of those 4, but it's not like I'd feel great about it.
Right.
All right. Mike Schneider says, I got Carter and Myers in my draft, 2 of my 4 AFC players.
Yeah, you went heavy NFC after the NFC series last week. I like to hear it. Carter, unfortunately,
I wish, man, we should have done the AFC. That would have probably kept you away from Carter. Although at the time that you drafted, the Wolf kind of liked him.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. Like, there was going to be no saving you from him. I assumed week 1, like, it was rookie getting slowly worked in. Ty Johnson started over him just for, like, rookie, passing of the torch. But then when he played over him again, and Tevin Coleman and LaMichael Pirine, like, I'm just not in on Carter anymore. And it sucks because I really did believe in the talent and the system he was walking into. I think there is some upside just to keep him stashed and see what happens. But yeah, it sucks. It sucks what's happened to him for sure.
Toon says waivers are in for Callaway. And yeah, I did drop the kicker. All right.
Go get Callaway, man. The newest target hog. What a wild Monday night. Like, in between Etienne getting hurt, Troutman was carted off. And then you got Callaway going for 2 touchdowns. Like, I already had him at 100, and I was literally plus 160, the ECR on Callaway coming into Monday night. I really wish he didn't blow up like that because I was getting him in round like 15 in every draft. But now everyone's going to know coming into your drafts that this guy is a target hog that's going to be a beast.
Yeah, I picked him up on the spot. Waivers went through immediately, and I got rid of Ryan Suckup.
Ooh, you're going to be very, very happy you did so.
Yeah, I think so too. Mike Schneider says, my league's actually removed kickers and defenses this offseason. I actually have kind of come around to that as well, Mike. 5 years ago, I would have been like, well, you got to have a kicker. You got to have a defense. I kind of agree.
I don't hate it. I would just say, did you replace him with like an extra flex? Did you put another player in there?
That's what my league did.
I get the whole anti-kicker movement, but I like kickers. Like, I hate them and I like them. Like, there's the weeks where a kicker will blow one and lose you a week. Mason Crosby did it for me. I think the same kicker did it for you too, if I'm not mistaken, Nat.
Yeah, I've been screwed by kickers, and it does add an element of fun to it. It's, like you do all this work analyzing all these guys, and you're not really putting any work into the kickers, and I don't blame you at all for that. But it does add an element of chance. I lost a really, really important game one time because I got negative points on like a 64-yard before halftime field goal attempt. I got like a -1 or 2 for that, and I lost. And I have very seldom been as angry at anything in my life.
And that's what's the beauty of it is the emotion it's going to bring from a kicker. It's either going to be the biggest joy when you're down by 12 on a Monday night and you win by 1 because your kicker gets to 13, or it is the most gut-wrenching thing if you're up and a kicker gets you negative points. Like, that's why I like them, because they range the spectrum of emotions.
Yeah.
I love it.
And nice. Thanks, guys. No problem, bud. Greg says, Wolf.
Greg. What's up, Greg? Thanks for tuning in, man.
And last but not least, Giuseppe Russo. Wolf, my guy.
Where have you been, Giuseppe?
I know, at 240, he comes in off the top rope with a Wolf, my guy comment.
Wolf, my guy. From where have you been is what I'm wondering, Giuseppe. Great to see you. Better late than never. It is that time of the year, baby. So I'm pumped to see you guys all. We have 1 QB, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex. Okay, so they added a flex. Right. Not bad. I get it. Sweet. Yeah, he just got back from Italy. Okay, I guess that's you're gonna.
Right. We've said that the excuses that are okay are if you move to the West Coast or if you get shot, and Italy counts too.
I guess Italy can count if you want to take a little time away from the fullback dive to go to Italy. I don't think you should, but I guess I can accept it. No, Giuseppe, great to see you. I hope Italy was awesome, brother. Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Stevenson for the Patriots. This is the last one I'm going to take because we do have to close this out here. Is ADP's like the end of the draft, the last round stab? I love the player. don't know when he's going to get on the field unless Sony gets moved, and then in case he should go 5 rounds earlier. So we'll find out. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. You can find all our content at rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy wolves. We also have the app where you can consume all that content in our cleanest form that we will hopefully be updating sooner than later and making it even better for you guys. Our podcast is the Fantasy Fullback Dive. If you prefer audio or need to listen at work instead of watch, awesome. And if you're listening to the podcast and you want to get involved with all these live questions and get everything answered, you can find us on YouTube and Facebook, especially YouTube. We're really trying to grow our audience there. So turn on that subscription, turn on that bell so you know when we're live and we can answer anything that you have for us. And last but not least, all these projections are going to be available at rotostreetjournal.com. It's going to be one of the first things the first thing we've ever put behind a paywall in conjunction with my 2021 investing guide. I know you took a sneak peek at it, Nat. You think it's a worthwhile purchase for the people?
Yeah, I love it. I really do. I mean, a lot of it's stuff that I know because I talked to you a lot about this stuff, but it was actually interesting hearing some logic. You actually put some stuff in there, let us into the brain of the wolf in ways I was not even necessarily privy to. And that's saying something because we talk a lot.
It's a scary place to be, but for fantasy, it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Sure. So guys, and the reason I honestly eventually want everything on the site to be free. Yeah. We're only charging right now because we really want to make these stock profiles that are going to make your fantasy life that much better. So consider it an investment in making a fantasy site, taking it to the next level. That's the goal. We're not really charging because we want to. I just don't have a teacher. I don't have that much money. So I need to kind of get some sort of income so I could build this thing up. I think I wouldn't charge for it if I didn't think it was worthwhile. It will be out this week. All my guys, round by round, who you should target. You should probably know them anyways because we do so many podcasts, but still consider supporting us. It would mean the world. It'll help us get to the next site, and that's going to take your fantasy game to the next level. All right, you guys, enough promoting. Thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it. We'll see you every day at 1:30 the rest of this week. I am the wolf.
I'm the truth.
In a world full of fantasy sheep, guys, be that wolf. Later.
See y'all.